Hello and welcome to WMT Review's 12 Nights of Halloween. I am Wiseman Tanofsky. Question: what's happened to Halloween? Now, Halloween is one of my favourite times of year. It's right up there with Christmas and my birthday. But I've noticed that even within my lifetime, Halloween has changed. I can remember when I was younger getting dressed up and going door to door for sweeties, and it was amazing. I was never very social, but on Halloween, everyone who answered the door was friendly, welcoming, and gave plenty of sweeties. Then something changed. I think the world got a little less friendly, or maybe I just got my eyes open to how nasty the world can be. All of a sudden, going out trick-or-treating was replaced by staying in and taking trick-or-treaters. And I noticed that as years went on, the number of callers was decreasing, until now when I've got maybe one or two in the whole evening. As it is, I've spent the last few Halloweens drinking in my room watching horror movies, and that's more or less what I seem to have planned for this year too. What happened to the traditions? What happened to the mystery and the wonder of Halloween? Why is it that now it's not a sacred holiday anymore? It's just an excuse for guys to dress up and act like morons and get thrown out of clubs, and for girls to wear as little as possible and flirt their way back into clubs after their guy friends get them kicked out. Halloween was a time for sharing scary stories and urban myths, while talking into a vertically aimed torch in a tent in your mate's back garden. And before that, right back in the beginning, it was a traditional festival which observed the spirits of the dead returning to the world of the living, and offering tribute to fend off evil spirits, and see to it that everyone returned to rest come All Hallows Day. Well, the film we're having a look at tonight is very rooted in traditional Halloween customs, because it's more or less what it is. I'm of course talking about Trick or Treat, a quaint little straight-to-DVD release which slipped past a lot of mainstream moviegoers, but has in the wake of its discovery gained a massive cult following. It tells 4 intertwining tales set on All Hallows Eve in a little town in Ohio, which all have one thing in common: a creepy little tyke named Sam, who travels the town punishing all those who violate the sacred rules of Halloween. It's 4 horror stories for the price of 1. Let's take a look at Trick or Treat. So, what's the story? Well, technically, there's 4. Firstly, there's The Principal, the story of a school principal, Stephen Wilkins, played by Dylan Baker, who leads a secret life as a serial killer, luring a child to destroying pumpkins and stealing candy to his house before murdering him with cyanide-laced candy. While burying his body, Wilkins' son attracts too much attention with his constant whining, and the man seems determined to make this thorn in his side his next victim, before we see the two of them carving a jack-o'-lantern together, revealed to be the severed head of the boy Wilkins has just killed. Next is the School Bus Massacre Revisited, telling the story of a group of children who play a cruel prank on a girl named Rhonda by taking her to the site of a school bus's tragic dive into an abandoned quarry. Telling the story of how the bus driver was paid by the parents of the mentally ill children aboard to kill them all, to add to the atmosphere. The kids dress up as the undead victims and attack Rhonda. But when one of them angrily kicks a pumpkin into the lake, the undead children do indeed rise from the lake, and Rhonda abandons them in the quarry lift, to the sound of their bloody demise. Third, we have Surprise Party, the story of a group of seductive girls who are collecting dates for a party, while the self-conscious virgin in their midst, Laurie, played by Paquin, stays behind to find her own date and join them later. She is stalked by a mysterious vampire-looking stranger, who we've seen already kill someone, but when he attacks her, she overpowers him and brings him to the party, revealing him to be Principal Wilkins in disguise. As it is, Laurie's virginity referred to the fact that she'd never killed before, and all the girls transform into werewolves and devour their dates. Finally, we have the story of Sam, who visits a miserable Halloween-hating old man, Mr. Krieg, played by Brian Cox, and his dog, who has spent the night scaring away trick-or-treaters. Sam torments the old man, attacking him with a sharpened candy, chocolate bars with razor blades in them, before, when going to kill him, his candy is lodged in a bar of chocolate, which Sam takes, and having been given a treat, puts an end to his tricks and leaves. This is shortly before the man, revealed to be the bus driver from the previous story, receives a visit from his long-dead victims, who repay him in full. This film was rather surprising, as I was expecting it to be complete garbage, due in a large part to its straight-to-DVD status. It's never really come up in any kind of countdown I've watched of great horror films. I'd never heard of Sam before, so when it came up on the randomizer this year, I didn't really know what to think. I was a little intrigued when I saw the logo of Legendary Pictures pop up in the opening credits, as I don't recall ever seeing a bad film by them. As the film went on, I was confused at times as to what was real and what was depicting the elements of fantasy surrounding Halloween, but looking back on it, that works really well, as it portrays the spirits of the netherworld wandering the plane of the living, completely disguised by the fact that people everywhere are also in disguise. You can never tell what's a real monster and what's a costume. The film tells its 4 stories in a manner similar to Creepshow or Tales from the Crypt, sharing the tales in the style of short, campfire urban legends. And all 4 of them are weaved around the same town, the same characters, and the same sort of time period, in a sort of Love Actually Halloween edition. And none of the stories end the way you expect them to. You expect the principal to stick a knife in his ear saw of a son, but they carve out Charlie's head together. You expect Laurie to become the vampire's latest victim, but in truth, she's the monster. You expect the tale of the school bus ghosts to be nothing more than a prank, but they rise from the lake and punish the naughty children while the naive victim of their prank is allowed to escape. And you expect Mr. Krieg to meet his end at the hands of Sam, but as soon as the rules of Halloween are observed, he leaves in peace. It twists and turns like a twisty-turny thing, each tale ending with a Twilight Zone-like twist that is both clever in concept and well executed. So let's have a look at Sam, played by Quinn Lord. I thought it was very clever that the primary antagonist of the film was hiding among the trick-or-treaters. At a first glance, this character doesn't look like much, just a pint-sized tyke in feely pyjamas. But over the course of the film, it becomes more and more obvious that there's something more to this creepy little killer. With Halloween also being known as the Festival of Samhain, and this character's name being Sam, it's clear what he's intended to portray, the spirit of Halloween itself, a supernatural entity that wanders the world on All Hallows Eve, seeing to it that the rules are obeyed and the traditions are followed. Give out candy to trick-or-treaters, don't put out your jack-o'-lanterns until morning, respect the spirits of the dead as well as those of the living, and he punishes those who break those rules brutally. At first, he could have just been a Halloween-obsessed child, but as the film progresses, and especially in its final segment, we begin to witness the supernatural powers of this little creature, crawling across ceilings, opening and closing doors with his mind, the fact that he is invincible. And this is all before that mask comes off, and we see the monster that lurks underneath. Sam reminds me of the Great Pumpkin from the Charlie Brown books, this mysterious creature that rises from the pumpkin patch on Halloween and punishes all those who break its sacred traditions. So what about the other characters in the film? I loved the idea of the school principal hiding a secret life as a serial killer, and I thought that Dylan Baker portrayed that character very well. He clearly has a great respect for the traditions of Halloween, and I'd like to think that he, like Sam, tends to kill those who violate those traditions. But of course, he himself violates them by using the night as a cover for his own questionable actions, which leads to his demise. I absolutely hated his son, though. I know I was supposed to hate him, but my god, that kid's delivery was dreadful. Macy, played by Britt McKillop, as the leader of the gang of kids who investigate the school bus massacre, was portrayed very well indeed. It's clear from the off that she's the driving force behind the prank, and she tells the story very well too, really nailing the ominous talking over the torch tone of her delivery. I also liked Rhonda as the nerdy loner. She sounded like Velma from the Scooby-Doo movies, and it complemented her character really well. To be honest, I liked a lot of the cast. The adolescent girls hunting for their dates all looked and acted really well. Brian Cox as the miserable old man worked brilliantly. And of course, the physical performance of Quinn as the monster lurking among them all was a key high point of the film. Speaking of the monster, let's have a look at the effects. And what a genuine surprise this film was. Being one of the most modern films on my list this year, I was expecting this flick to be plagued in computer-generated effects which constantly spoiled the scares. But in actual fact, there was not a single digital effect in the whole film. Everything was done with costume, makeup, emphasised with lighting and other practical effects, and it served the film fantastically. With CG, it's too easy to go over the top, but this film benefited from its subtle use of practical effects and the building of tension before the story's twist took the viewer completely off their guard. The music complemented this too. I was genuinely apprehensive during the scene in the quarry. The dark lighting, the mist, the metal corpse of the school bus buried in the lake, and it made the final reveal of the undead children even more frightening. This film does a fantastic job of building an atmosphere of mystery and suspense, as well as one of helplessness shown when the vampire's first on-screen victim is desperately seeking help, but of course everyone believes it's part of the celebrations. You know when you see characters doing certain things that they'll be next, smashing pumpkins, putting them out too early, saying that they hate Halloween. It's a good update to the rules of horror started by Scream in the 90s. Personally, I thought this film was very good. It had one or two good scares, it blurred the lines between fantasy and reality, and portrayed Halloween very well as the night where anything is possible. It wasn't a simple, straightforward slasher that I was expecting it to be, and I'm very glad of that. And for that, I'm going to award the film a very good 7.5 on the Orsometer. It was a tense bit of fun with some good messages and a clever little reminder of the sacred traditions of All Hallows Eve. So that's a 7.5 on the Orsometer for Trick or Treat. I've been Wiseman Tanofsky. This has been WMT Reviews 12 Nights of Halloween. Thank you very much for listening.